Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Another translation says to give you a hope, a future, an expected end. Look at the person sitting next to you and say, it is your Heavenly Father's purpose to prosper you, to give you a future, to give you a hope. I want to talk to you today for a few moments about discovering the vocation that God has for you. Discovering the vocation that God has for you. Discovering the vocation that's right for you. No more murky Mondays. Now I want you to think for a moment with me. What will your life be like if you do not connect with the specific vocation that's right for you? What will your life be like if you don't take the time to ever connect with the purpose of your Heavenly Father for your life? What will your life look like if you don't? 70% of Americans go to a job that they hate. 70% of Americans go to a job that they do not like. When you engage and you find the purpose of God for your life, when you find and discover the vocation that's right for you, there's no more murky Mondays. Murky Mondays go away. Mondays have such a stigma attached to them. I'm writing a book right now, I'll be done in the next several months, called Discovering the Vocation That's Right for You. Big surprise, huh? And then the subtitle right now can change. I believe it's going to be, and I have what I call my focus group. People that I bounce ideas off and they tell me the truth. They say that's stupid or that's good. Well, they don't put it quite that way, but they kind of say stupid in a nice way. They say that's real good, or no, I don't like that. Under the subtitle will be No More Murky Mondays. Discovering the vocation that's right for you. And it's geared towards middle school children. It's geared towards college kids. There are going to be aspects of the book what will relate to you if you're at any age in life. But it's specifically, I'm going after the young people in this book. And specifically, it's not going to be marketed towards just Christians. It's going to be marketed towards a secular audience. But nevertheless, I want to help kids. I want to help college people. I want to help them before they make that step out into the marketplace, into the working world. I want to help them. I'm going to give them some food for thought, things they can do to help them discover what it is that they can step into in the marketplace that they'll actually enjoy doing. And it won't be a murky Monday. It won't be, let me get up and get out of bed. Do you realize that listen to this, majority of the heart attacks take place on Monday morning between the hours of 5 a.m. and 10 o'clock a.m. More than any other day and time of the week. There are more heart attacks on Monday morning between those times than any other day and time of the week because it backs up the statistic that 70% of people are going to a job they do not like. It backs up the fact people feel like they're being forced to go to a job that they don't want to be there. I owe, so it's off to work I go. I feel forced, I feel pushed. I really don't want to do this. It has nothing to do with my gifts and my talents being used here, but what else am I going to do? So I feel stuck. I just don't know what else to do. And that's the situation most of the time for people. They just feel stuck. Well, what else can I do? But look at the person sitting next to you and say, you're not stuck.
You're not stuck.
If you're 10, if you're 40, if you're 60, you're still not stuck. And it's never too late to change vocations and specifically see your gifts and your talents begin to be used. And then when your gifts and your talents are used, they give you a little certificate of appreciation called money, called a check, called cash. Currency is being placed in your hand because your gift and your talent, the person that you really are, the real you, that's what happens when you are discovering the vocation that's right for you. You're allowing the real you to express itself and you'll be paid well for it. It's just the way the thing works. It's not because you're trying to be like somebody else. You're just being you. You're using your gifts. You're using your talents. And you're flowing and you're operating the way God designed you to. There is an element of work involved, absolutely. But it's not work to you. Yesterday I worked about 14 and a half hours I worked. I got up at 4:30 a.m. and I left. I have a student. I also teach music. I had my first student at 6 o'clock a.m. I had students all day. I had a piano tuning. And then I got home and I typed up a teaching letter, an email teaching letter, and sent it out with a YouTube video attached to it that was enforcing, matter of fact, what I'm teaching you today, discovering the vocation that's right for you. I was physically tired by the end of the day, but you know what? Inside my soul, I was thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled. Why? Because I was able to use my gifts and my talents. I was in my niche. I was in my sweet spot, and I was able to help people. I was able to take them a little bit higher musically. I was able to take somebody's piano that sounded bad and bring it back into tune. And I was thrilled, and I got paid well yesterday for that long day. I was physically tired, but I was rejuvenated. And it wasn't that I was wrung out. I was tired, but there's a difference between being tired and wrung out. I was far from wrung out, but I was tired after working all those hours. And I eat when I'm on the road. I had my cooler with me, and I was sipping on water all day, and I was eating good food. Laura packed me some vegetables, and I had some good things and fruit in there, so I was taken care of. What will your life look like if you don't connect and anchor in to the vocation that God has for you? I want to use this example. How many have ever read in the book of Genesis 37, about the ancient Hebrew by the name of Joseph? How many have ever read about Joseph? Well, Joseph, he was betrayed by his family. His brothers, they sold him off into slavery. He ended up being thrown into a pit, first of all, and he was sold off into slavery. He ends up being a slave, and then he's doing the right thing. God begins to bless him, and then someone lies about him. He gets put in prison. Things are looking worse. He's in prison all these years, and the favor of God's on the blessings on him, and he begins to, wherever he goes, and it seems like everything he touches, it's just blessed. That people that were around him would notice the blessing on him and would just make him manager, ruler over everything that they had. So he's in prison, but the prison guard, the ruler there in the prisons, put Joseph over everything. He wasn't concerned. He said, you know how to run things. And so Joseph, several years before all this took place, saw in a dream something that his heavenly Father had for him. He said, he communicated that dream to his brothers. He said, look, we were working in the field, and my work was superior to your work. And I'm just breaking it down, making it make sense in our today's vernacular. He said, look, my work was superior to yours. You were actually bowing down to my work. It was that I had that much superiority over you. And they got ticked. I bet you if I was there, if I was one of the brothers, I probably would be ticked too. If my younger brother said, hey man, you can play that guitar, but I was really rocking the house. I mean, I was in the stadium, I was bending the notes, and they were like, yeah! I'd probably be a little ticked off. He said, my work was superior to your work. And the brothers hated him. They ended up throwing him in a pit. He sold off into slavery, but everywhere he went, the Lord was with him. Many years go by, approximately about 16 years pass, and he's in this prison, and there's a butler and a baker that Pharaoh at the time sends to prison, and they have these dreams. Joseph had a gift. He had a talent of being able to, that grace was on him to be able to interpret dreams. So he interprets their dreams. The one was hung, and he told them that in the dream. And the butler was placed back in Pharaoh's court, and he had his normal job. So the butler forgot about him, and the baker was hung. Years later, Pharaoh has this dream, and he sees that there's going to be 7 years of famine, and there's going to be 7 years of plenteousness. And in the dream, he saw these cows that some of them were plump and fat, and then he saw in another dream that they were just absolutely looked like death. And it disturbed him. He didn't know the interpretation of the dream. So the butler hears the dream of Pharaoh, and he says, wait a minute, it's been several years now, but there's a guy in prison, a Hebrew, and he's gifted, he's able to interpret dreams. So Pharaoh summoned him. Now listen, when Pharaoh summoned him, he just didn't go running. It says he bathed, he shaved, he changed his garments. He knew who he was about to go before. But catch this, sometimes when you read it, you can skim right over this. He not only shaved, he not only bathed, he not only changed his garment, changed his demeanor, he laid out a plan. And I'm not going to take that, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all this in detail. He went before the Pharaoh, interpreted the dream, but he also laid out a plan. He said there's going to be years of famine, and this is what you should do, Pharaoh. And then through math, he starts breaking down specifically how much grain you're going to need. He comes before the Pharaoh, he's bathed, he's clean, he's smelling good, he's looking good, and he has a plan in place, and he's using mathematics. And the Pharaoh's going, well, who will be so wise as you, anybody than you, to do this, Joseph? And he puts him in command, right under the Pharaoh. He is the greatest manager throughout all of Egypt. He owns it all, exception of Pharaoh. He's right under Pharaoh. Joseph goes from being in prison to being the man. 16 years later. And then we know, if you've read through the book of Genesis, if you know the story, the famine hit and people were dying. People had no food and they were coming to Egypt. And Joseph had grain stored up for years and he was able to save and spare lives. The point is, what if Joseph did not connect with who he really was? What if you don't connect with the specific vocation that you have? Because see, you fulfilling your vocation and your purpose has a lot more to do with than just you being happy, having a nice home and a nice white picket fence. It has when you connect with the vocation that God has for you, when you're in the specific vocation he has for you, your gifts, your talents, the real you is able to be released, and the provision that you need is going to be directly tied with you being specifically well placed in that specific vocation that's right for you. There's nothing more frustrating than when you are in a vocation where you cannot use your gifts and your talents. Now, all of us, sometimes you find yourself in those places temporarily, and that's okay. It's okay if you're passing from where you need to be, you're passing through that valley situation. It's not your dream job. Maybe you have a dream to own your own company and you're waiting tables. That's fine for a season, maybe even possibly years. But you have to know where you're going and keep that in the forefront of your thinking, and you will arrive. Those dreams, those visions will come to pass. But it's amazing to me, even in the body of Christ, when I talk with people, that's usually where the conversation goes automatically. Well, what do you do for a living? Or what has God called you to? And too many times I get this answer, I don't know, I'm waiting on God. Well, how long have you been waiting? How old are you? Oh, I'm 60. I'm just waiting on God. Well, you know what? You'll probably be waiting on God, and you'll probably go to the grave. And I'm not being negative. I'm just saying I've watched too many people that I know personally go to their grave. I don't want you to be one of them. And you're never too young or too old to connect with what he has for you. Are you with me so far? I'm going through I love to read. Leaders are readers. If you're not reading anything, you don't have anything to give. That's why I couldn't get up here and preach and speak without any notes, but I prayed and I wanted the heart of God before I would speak to you. But I could get up here and just preach and talk about anything. You know why? Because I'm going through books after book. Last year alone, I read 40-some different books. I went through 580 podcasts. So every single day I'm listening and listening. All day in the car I'm listening to audiobooks, listening to preachers, listening to people speak on the topics that are relevant to me. For marriage, Jimmy and Karen Evans, Marriage Today. They've been married for 40-some years. They teach millions of people principles of success, how to have a great marriage. So you know what? I need to have a better marriage. My marriage is good, but I want it to be a great marriage. So you know why? I feed on that. The day that I say, oh, everything's good, we love one another, You're setting yourself up for a bad fall, a failure. So I do things constantly to keep my marriage fresh, to keep the love fresh. I get ideas from them, and sometimes I get slaps across the face by them, rebukes like, I see things, shouldn't be doing that. That's ticking her off and not realizing it, or vice versa. So I'm feeding on that constantly. I'm growing. Leaders are readers. I was going through this biography. How many have ever heard of Viktor Frankl? Viktor Frankl, what a book. I mean, it's heart-wrenching. He was captured by the Nazis, and he wrote a book years ago. It's pretty old, Man's Search for Meaning. He talked about in the middle of absolute hell on earth, where people were being gassed and burned in the furnaces. Absolutely horrific, and the things the Nazis would do, not just physically, but psychologically, the torment that went on. He talked about things that he was absolutely able to connect with purpose, even in the middle of all that pain. And that's the thing that kept him moving and actually kept him alive. Is he was able to find purpose in the middle of all that suffering, and these guys suffered. I mean, some of the things I was listening to as I was listening to I'm almost finished it yesterday. I was in the car for a lot of hours, and I'm listening to this, and he's talking about the things the Nazis would do, and it was horrific. I mean, talk about seeing a reflection of a devil. I mean, anyone that doesn't believe that there's a devil loose, I mean, you might not see him physically in the earth, but you're seeing a reflection of his attributes and his characters flowing through those people. They would beat them on the head, and they'd work them to death. They're in frostbite. They'd strip them nude and shave their entire bodies. They gave them enough bread and water to where they were just barely alive. They looked like skeletons. They said we would look at one another and laugh because we were the walking dead. Nothing left, and they would whip us. They would beat us with clubs, and there was no energy left in us. There was nothing left, no skin on the bones. We'd be absolutely totally naked out in the bitter freezing cold with frostbite on the hands. And if you stopped working for a moment, they'd come over with a club and say, "Work, you pig!" and beat you over the head. And I'm listening to this, and he's saying in the middle of that, I found purpose. In the middle of that, he said, I would go other places in my imagination, and I would link in. He said, one day I was standing, and he said the guard was beating people, and it was just horrific. And he said, one day I saw a vision, and he said, I saw myself in like an auditorium, and I was lecturing. I was giving a lecture, and people were sitting around me, and he said their eyes were glued to me, and they were hanging on every word as I was sharing what I had went through in the camps, as I was sharing my life story. And he was a doctor of psychology, and he was sharing principles to help them. He said, in the middle of all this, I saw a vision, and he said, I anchored into hope. I anchored into that there was actually still a purpose and a plan for me here on the earth, and it held me together from not either committing suicide or just dying, just giving up. He said sometimes people would just wake up, they would go to the fence, touch the fence, commit suicide, electrocute them, or they would just lay there and they would just die. And he said that's what gave me the will to keep moving. He anchored into purpose, even while he's in this camp. This war-torn German camp, and they're killing people, they're burning them, they're gassing them, treating them like dogs and pigs, messing with them physically, psychologically, to the point where my mind can't even wrap around what this man went through. But he anchored into hope, he anchored into purpose. And millions of people have been blessed by that book. Through Joseph, as Joseph connected with his specific vocation, he was a manager, he was a leader. As he carried that out, you know what took place? Millions of lives were saved. They were spared as a result. And I believe the same is true for you today. I believe you connecting with your specific vocation that you have, that God has for your life, is not just about you being happy, although your physical health, your mental health, your financial health is all connected to your purpose. I would be here hours just listing the things that take place when a man and woman find their vocation and they connect with it, and they're actually going to a job day in and day out, giving hours and hours of their life to something that thrills them. They get up on Monday morning, and it's not a murky Monday, it's a mountain moving Monday, and they're thinking, oh, bless God, this is the start of a new week. We're going to accomplish things. We're going to do things that touch hearts and transform lives. And I'm not talking about people who are just in ministry. I'm talking about everyday people. There are people that I have met over the years that are doctors, and they recognize that this was a God calling on their life. They were wired for this. They said they thought about this as long as they can possibly remember. As little children, they envisioned being a doctor. They envisioned going in, tearing people open and fixing their hearts. They envisioned going in there and correcting the back. They envision these things. I've met people who are tax accountants, and they say, I have people that come in, they run businesses, and this is a calling of mine. This is the vocation that God has called me. It's wonderful to get up in the morning and go to my office and have people come in, and I'm able to help their businesses run more efficiently. I'm able to show them areas that they're not writing off that they can be writing off. I'm able to help them get organized in their finances, and they're thrilled. But then the pendulum swings both ways. I was listening to a guy, and he's a dentist. He owns a practice. He said he went into the dentist practice, into that field, because he knew he could make a lot of money. He's been doing this for a lot of years. It's a very successful practice. It makes millions of dollars per year. He has a big staff. It's a huge company. He's miserable. He makes everyone around him in that office miserable. And I'm glad that I don't have him as my dentist, because I wouldn't want to go in there and have a dentist work on me that hates his job. He said he just went in it just because it paid good. But it had nothing to do with his gifts and callings. And as the man was asked, what would you have done if you could have done it differently? He began to open up, and he began to explain that he had a specific desire to go in a specific area of study and to do that as a full-time vocation, but it didn't pay as much. It paid well, but he knew he could make more as a dentist, so he waited out. He went the money route, but he realizes now that just because you go to the money route and you have a job that you can earn, $500,000 a year, or $250,000 or whatever, that's not going to be it. And why I'm on that, there's a study going on right now. How many of you have ever heard of Dave Ramsey? Dave Ramsey. What a great man of God that God has raised up to help people get out of debt. And they're getting out of debt by the millions. They're conducting the largest millionaire study that's ever been done right now. Prior to Dave Ramsey doing it, a man by the name of Tom Stanley, now he passed away several years. He was in an automobile wreck and he died. He wrote a book called The Millionaire Next Door. Tom had, in that book, he had interviewed and he had statistics of millionaires and who they were. Dave has discovered that the majority of the millionaires today, and I'm just going to touch on this and move on, they're school teachers that earn between $60,000 and $70,000 a year, but they have a plan for their money. They stay out of debt. They don't buy new cars. They don't use credit cards. They save 15% of their income. They put it in a 401k or Roth IRAs or all the above. They are good with their money. They live 15 to 20% below their means, and they're investing. And they do this long term. And one by one down the road, usually within 18 to 24 years, give or take, depending on how aggressive they are in their income, they reach millionaire status. We think, to become a millionaire, you got to be earning $300,000 or $400,000 a year. Listen to this. Most of the time, those that are those big earners like that, like a doctor, they're horrible with their money. They're terrible with their money. Those are the ones that are calling the Dave Ramsey show and saying, the wife will call in and say, and I listen to these stories all the time, we bring in $450,000 a year. We live in a $900,000 home. I have a $80,000 Mercedes. My husband drives a $100,000 Rolls Royce. We have college for the kids. We have this. We have the shore house. Blah blah blah. How much debt do you have? We have about $900,000 in debt. Blah blah blah. You're listening to all this. It means nothing that they have a $400,000 income. They're not managing right what they have. So if you want to reach millionaire status, you can do it, but it takes a plan. It takes some discipline. It takes some focus, but you can do it. And the good news is, even if you're 40, 50 years old, you can at least get on the path. And you say, if you crunch the numbers and say, well, I'm not going to reach it in my lifetime, that's okay. Teach your grandkids. Teach your kids. Let them break that cycle, that poverty mentality, that poverty cycle. And listen, oh goodness, I'm getting off my notes. I feel like I'm going to preach. We live in a day and a time where there is such opportunity for you and I. Never has there been offered the opportunity that's before you and I. with going online. Forget about the great universities that offer, you can you get your degree and work at your own pace at home. Forget about the degree right now for a moment with me. You can go online and listen to people that are doing exactly what you want to do. Listen to the way they did it, and just you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Do exactly what they did and you'll get the same effect. I listened to a guy the other day that called in the Dave Ramsey show, and he said, Dave, I was earning about $35,000 a year. I hated my job. He said, I asked myself one day, I sat down and said, what do you really want to do? What are you wired to do? And he said, I always wanted to be an engineer. He said, so I went into Borders bookstore. I spent $25. I invested $25 in myself, and I purchased a book that educated me on engineering. He said, then I started putting in applications all over, and someone hired me, and I didn't even have a degree, but I had a good work ethic, and I was there on time, and I was actually friendly, and I was dressed right. I put on a nice suit, nice tie. I went in there like I was somebody, like I was going to actually get the job, and they hired me. He said, I doubled my income. I'm making over $60-some thousand. He said, they said, how much did you spend? He said, $25 on the book. He said, how long did it take you to read it through? A few weeks. He said, I ingested everything that was in that book, and I'm wired to do this. So I'm not against degrees. I have a degree. I'm not against degrees, but in today's world, if you want to just make money, you don't have to have a degree. You just need to quiet yourself and slow down. We are too busy as a society. It's faster, 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 faster. And being pushed like that is draining, and it's zapping your creativity. You're so sucked up and you're on the hamster's wheel, gotta do, that you're not taking time to dream and be creative and allow your imagination, sanctified through meditating in the Word of God, to rip back the curtain and enable you to dream and capture and see clearly what it is that you have to offer. You have gifts. You have gifts. You have gifts. You have gifts and talents that no one else possesses. They can't say it like you. They can't write it like you. They can't do what you do like you do it. They can't say it like you. You're unique. That's the real you. You make a beautiful you and a terrible someone else. Look at the person sitting next to you. Say, you make a beautiful you, but a terrible someone else. You make a beautiful you and a terrible someone else. You have so much to offer, but the bottom line is you have to believe that about you. You have to look beyond all your shortcomings, all the mistakes you've made, all the words people have spoken over you that have created ceilings. They told you were ugly, you were fat, you were stupid, whatever. You got to go beyond all that. You got to look in that mirror and say, I am somebody. You need to square your shoulders, put your chest out, arch your back, and tell yourself, I am somebody. And my best days are straight ahead. And I'm going to discover the plan and purpose the Father has for me. I have 5 minutes with you left. Number 1, what is your passion? Now, if you say, I don't know what my passion is, here's a quick way to find out what your passion is. Open your checkbook. If you don't know what your passion is, open up your checkbook and look at where you spend your money. You'll find real quick. I like musical instruments. So if I open up my checkbook, or if I look on Amazon in the history, I'll see I'm buying guitars, I'm buying saxophones, I'm buying keyboards, pianos, drum sets, everything that has to do with music. I just love it, and it's part of me, and I get paid for it, so it's part of my craft, it's part of my vocation. So that's where my passion is. Where is your passion? What makes you cry? What makes you sing? What moves you? What is it that when you do it, you have a lot of energy? Old Joe come home from work. His wife said, Joe, can you do the dishes? He said, oh, I'm so tired. I just worked all day. I don't know if I can do the dishes. He sat down, the phone rang, and it was his buddy. And he said, hey, Joe, I'm going to go down and we're going to do some golfing. All the guys of us going down. I said, would you like to come, Joe? Oh, yes, yes. All of a sudden, it was a miracle. Joe had all this energy. And he got in the car and he said, I'll be back in several hours. Why? Because they connected with his passion. Dishes, golf. He found his passion. It's amazing how the body will fire up and how all this energy will come in. For you men, you come home and you're tired. Your wife says, can you clean the house? And you say, I'm so tired. And you sit down. Well, let an hour go by and she comes out in a nice piece of Victoria's Secret lingerie. And I'll see how all of a sudden your system, energy comes into your system. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. My God. I don't know. Just I feel the anointing. It's because passion lit your fire. Okay? You find your passion, you'll find your energy, you'll find your niche. You get in that sweet spot, and that's the place where people's lives are changed. So number one, you find your passion. What moves you? Number two, what are your top talents? What are your top talents? Have you ever sat down and wrote a list? If you, number one, start with, what are you really passionate about? Have you ever sat down and asked yourself, what am I really passionate about? And I mean, you just quiet yourself. You might even take a week or a couple months, and you just sit down and get quiet, and you ask yourself, what am I really passionate about? What do I really want to trade my life for? What really has meaning to me? I don't want to just go through the motions. What really moves me? What am I really bothered by? What do I want to contribute that's going to change lives? Have you ever done that? And then second of all, have you sat down and you ask yourself, what are my gifts? What are my talents? For some people, it's math. I mean, they're just a whiz at math. You ask some people a math equation, and they're like, they're rattling off all these numbers. They make great accountants. They make, a lot of times, great financial advisors. That's part of their gift, but sometimes they'll be in a vocation that has nothing to do with that gift. So I encourage you, I'm leaving you with this today. And then number three, how can you use your talent in the marketplace? So number one, what are your passions? What are you passionate about? Number two, what are your top talents? And you list them. It might be 2 talents. It might be 1 talent. It might be 5. You sit down and think, quiet yourself. Think about it. What are my top talents? And then you ask yourself, okay, I found my passion. I found my talents. So how can I connect this in the marketplace? What can I do that will enable me to be in my sweet spot and use these gifts, this passion, this talent, to then help people? So this is your homework. I'm giving you homework. I'm used to giving people homework. Every time I'm teaching music, I'm giving homework. So this is your homework. You ready for this? So number one, I want you to write down, what are your passions? I want you to do this. Life is too short for you to miss and not be placed in a specific vocation that's right for you. So number one, I want you to write down your passions. How many are going to do this? Let me see some hands if you're going to do this. If you'll do this within the next 360 days, your life will be revolutionized and changed. Amen. Write down what you're passionate about. Write down your talents. Make a list. So number one, what are you going to do? Passion. Write down your passions. Number two, your talents. And then number three, after you wrote down what your passion is, what your talent is, number three, I want you to go to someone you highly respect. Could be your pastor, could be your spouse. I don't know, maybe a boss, maybe a good friend that you've known for a long time. You have lots of respect for him or her, and I want you to show that list to them and say, is this really me, or is this just, do I think I'm good? I think I'm a singer. Hallelujah! 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 Well, that's, you know what? You're probably not going to do well as a full-time singer. Get somebody. Get somebody that's going to be truthful. Get somebody. That caught me off guard. Get somebody. Get somebody that you respect that's going to tell you the truth. You don't want somebody, if you're singing like that, to tell you, I think with a little work you can get there. No, you're not going to get there. Sorry. That's not for you. You know, people can sing with work, but honey, you're not even in the right ballpark. You're not even in the park. You're out in the street somewhere. So that's not for you. But we can sit down and figure out what you have. That's your talent. So number 1, you write down your passion. Number 2, write down your talents. Ask someone after you make your list. Ask them. They'll be honest with you. Ask your children. Ask your spouse. Ask someone you highly respect. Say, is this really me? And then sit down. Number 4. Here's number 4. How much time and money will it take for me to get to this dream vocation? It's always going to take time, and it's always going to take money. Like I said, you might have a dream to run, I don't know, maybe you want to be a designer, a home designer or whatever, and design decor in someone's home, and you're waiting tables. That's okay temporarily. That's fine. You know where you're going. You're using that job as a catalyst to get you where you want to be. And that's okay. And while you're there, serve. Do it unto the Lord. Do it. Give Him your best. Do it as unto your Heavenly Father when you're waiting on each person. Connect with them. You're not just there just to earn some money, but this is a part. See, you grow into what He has for you. And people, they don't want to hear that. That's a cuss word that you're going to grow as you're developing, as you're growing. You're going to then experience what He has for you. I'm closing down here. That was closing number 1. Closing number 2 is the one I stick to that. So number 1, tell me, your action plan is what? Number 1? Find your passion. Number 2? Write down what your talents are, your top talents. Number 3? Ask someone you respect to review that list. Number 4? Exactly. How much time? In other words, set a deadline and figure out how much time, what's going to be needed for this, how much time, how much money. Dave Ramsey teaches, and you have, thousands and thousands of these young kids call in and they say, Dave, I followed your plan. I went all the way through college. I have no student loan. And he's like, glory to God. They're like, we followed your plan. We didn't take any loans out. We were tempted to. Our friends said, you're crazy. We got our degree. We did it a little bit at a time. And we worked our butts off. And we did it, Dave. And I just want to let you know, I'm making over $100,000. My wife and I, we own our home. We didn't get a brand new car. We got a used car. We didn't take out any student loans. But Dave, we followed your plan. And we're totally debt free. And we're living 15 to 20% below our means. We're investing in retirement. We're putting the money away. We don't even have a kid yet. And we're putting money away for college. So when he or she comes, the funds are going to be there, and he or she won't be borrowing. We'll be paying for their college. He's like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So it can be done. It just takes some discipline. It takes focus. We're too busy. Shut that boob tube off. The average American spends 40 hours a week in front of the TV. And now today it's shifted. Let me shift those stats because they're old. They spend, let's say now, 40 hours a week on Facebook or on social media, and they're scrolling. I spend less than 1% watching the news, and I can tell you every major event. I can tell you what the weather is going to do. I can tell you that the Eagles are playing today. I can tell you every major event, and I spend less than 1% because I want to know what's going on out there. I don't want to just walk around, and not know what's going on in the world we live in. But I spend less than 1% of my time on that stuff, but I can tell you but I don't take it to the point where I meditate on it, where I think about it and just keep rehearsing it again. Because you know what? I can't do those things and still accomplish my purpose. Just the same way I can't allow offense in and allow unforgiveness in, because what will happen is if I allow offense and unforgiveness in me, or if I get caught up in what my critics are saying about me, I'll get off track. And I won't have enough energy to complete my assignment and to do my vocation, to do it with excellence, if I'm so concerned what people are saying, and if I'm so caught up in what everyone else is doing and seeing them live their dreams, I'm not going to have enough time to live mine. So I am very focused, very strategic, and like I said, these are it's like a dartboard. These 7 things I focus on every day, and it's working. So that's why we're doing the conference in April, the Abundant Life Conference, because I can't do it in 45 minutes. I can't even do it in 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours. It takes hours to even begin to just impart what this is all about. But I encourage you, to register. Go on abundantlifesolutions.net. The landing page will be up in the next day or two. Register for the conference. It's $20 per person. Invest in yourself and come out on April the 27th, 28th. Sit for 2 days under the worship. Sit under the teaching as we pour into you. And we're going to be sharing with you where to put your money. What companies are proven companies for the last 60, 70, 80 years that people have invested, such as Vanguard, Charles Schwab. These are places you can put your money, you can invest, and it's going to bring a good yield, a good return, and you're not going to get killed because of the fees. You need health insurance. Do you need life insurance? Well, what kind? Is it whole life, term life? We're going to deal with all that. We're going to deal with practical things. We're going to deal with keys to getting you on track, to getting you out of debt. Following the program we've done. Put you on track in investing and then helping you find the vocation that's right for you. Teaching you in your areas of marriage and getting you connected with God again and going deeper. Exercise and nutrition. I'm not going to be serving Pepsi and Sprite and all that other stuff with sugar. I'm going to be dealing with all that. We're going to be going through those keys. And you're going to have and enjoy and experience life in abundance to the full, till it overflows. So I encourage you, register for the conference, the Abundant Life Success and Leaders Conference, April 27th and 28th, Abundantlifesolutions.net. That's all I got for today. Amen. The last thing I want to leave you with this is accountability. If you want to accomplish your dreams, if you want to accomplish the things that are in your heart, you got to have somebody that you're accountable to. Share those visions, share those dreams with somebody, someone you trust, you respect, and get around people that are doing what you want to do. Read their books. Listen to their broadcasts. I said earlier, we have the broadcast. You can go on our YouTube channel, Wayne McDonald, Abundant Life. Subscribe. Hit the little bell so every time the new video is edited and it's released, you'll get it. What is it going to do? It's going to build you up. It's going to enforce what you just heard today. Father, we thank you for your word. We commit it into your hands. We thank you for the fruit that it produces, 30, 60, 100-fold. Thank you, Father, to the point that is received, is the point it's going to bring forth a harvest. Yes. So we just say yes to your will, yes to your ways.